Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis, and today we're going to be talking about Hedera and Hbar, so sit back, relax, and before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask guys, could hit that like button. It does help the channel grow immensely, and of course I always do greatly appreciate that. But with that being said, let's just dive in. So I am recording this ahead of time just to give you guys a quick note if prices do change and stuff like that. I don't expect too much drastic swings, but who knows, we shall see, because this will be updated or upload it after we do see the indices do open. So I'm definitely watching for that later today. But on the 24-hour span, we are seeing a few altcoins, nothing too green besides stable coins and like ANC. On the 24-hour span, you do see a lot of altcoins in the red currently. We also did see Hbar release, or Hedera, I should say, release a little bit more Hbar in terms of the circulating supply, and we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be addressing it. We are also going to be talking about where we could see the price by the end of the year. So let's just dive in and let's talk about a few things and address Hedera. So first, we will talk about the circulating supply. So we are sitting at about almost 41% in terms of the circulating supply. Which is around the same percentage-wise that we should have been at anyways if we do follow the roadmap. Of course, there was a large percentage of tokens released in 2021, which did kind of hurt the overall market fundamentals for it to kind of move. But I don't think that it made too big of an impact, and the reason why I say that is because every single time that we've had a nice drastic spike, for example, I was in this around the January 4th to the January 10th timeframe, buying at around roughly 3 to like 5 cents. And of course, this did do a major rally to roughly almost 40 cents exact, followed by a second little rally to about 41 cents before having that massive downswing in, of course, the summertime. Now, let's talk about this. So first off, during this time here, it was a very poor time for Hbar to pump, and I've said back in around like the May timeframe that it was beginning to start to break out yet again before, of course, the market decided to fall. Now, we've seen a secondary pump in September to about like 50.5 cents. Then we kind of just traded sideways, and it looks like we were trying to have that next major move. And of course, around this time, Bitcoin did top out, and we ended up having that massive drop in price again. Now, currently, we are trading at about roughly 13.5 cents. We came back down to almost test these major support zones going all the way back to March of 2021. Is the price chart for Hedera very bearish? Well, you're gonna have to stick around until the end of this video to find out, but I will be talking to you guys about the price chart for Hbar and really kind of going in depth on it. So let's talk more so about Hedera specifically in terms of fundamentals. So first off, we will talk about this. So 450 million Hbar is currently staked right now on Stater. Individuals are still earning a fairly large APY on their Hbar tokens. I think right now we are still at about 53% currently. And you can see like your Hbar X value and things like that. Now they've been updating a few things here. It's pretty cool. Again, I only have 1,000 in here in terms of staking because I just don't like the idea of it being locked up until July 2022. Am I missing out? Sure, it's totally fine though. In my opinion, I just don't want it to be locked until that point. But this is also just an ETA. I mean, it's expected around July of 2022. Do I still have the idea of holding Hbar long term? 100%. The only reason why I do want to pull this out at some point in time is, hey, if we hit some of my sell targets, I'm going to be taking my profit points because we still will see a bear market, and Hbar is no different than any other altcoin. We will all see altcoins down 90+% if we haven't already, right? Now, in general, for Hbar, I think that the staking opportunities is fairly good for incentives for long-term holders, but it's not going to provide so much value just yet. It only provides value to, again, hodlers who are holding their Hbar and staking it. Let's talk about the demand around Hbar and what will actually drive the value of the token itself. So obviously in this market, it is a very speculative market. I will say right now, in terms of Hbar's price appreciation, it will most likely depend on one, marketing, and also two, just market standards. In terms of market standards, when I talk about this, I mean, like, we need to have the market back into a point where we are having a nice relief rally. Do I believe that we are in a full-on bear market and Bitcoin's about to go to, 20K and stuff? No. I think that we are, sort of in a neutral standpoint right now. In terms of short term, yeah, it could get fairly bearish, but, on the macro view, I'm still extremely bullish on this market, specifically even in regards to Hbar. Now, I did see a lot of people comparing Hbar to Solana and to ADA. I think ADA is the safest one to really kind of compare and contrast because, of course, the circulating supply is fairly, significant, right? So let's actually kind of open this up in a new tab, and let's also address Hbar. So as we kind of address these two, what really pushed ADA was a ton of, again, FOMO. I've said this multiple times. I was actually in ADA at the time that this kind of went off. I was accumulating during 2020. Now, did I get into these nice cheap dips down here? No. I was actually accumulating at around like 15 cents, and it wasn't a significant position either. It wasn't like I was throwing, $10,000 plus into ADA. But, I did have a significant position, and this did really start to run at around the same time that I was buying into Hbar. Now, I didn't expect Hbar to go off and do anything too significant just yet because it is still a fairly new project. We've got to remind that, ADA is still very, very, it's not like a new project like Hbar. It's an actual old project that goes back to 2017. Now, during this time, we did also see a bull run for ADA all the way to about like $1.10. So it was expected for us to kind of reach these levels yet again and break out. And I think that that's what caused a lot of people to accumulate. But also during this time, we've seen YouTubers saying, ADA was going to $100, $10, this, that, whatever. Well, we ended up topping out about like $3, which again, in terms of my $3 to $6 range on Hbar, I still think that this puts it at a nice price point. And again, the market cap for this in terms of circulatory supply, I think that it kind of aligns perfectly with Hbar's overall, fundamental statistics. So again, when we talk about ADA and we talk about Hbar, kind of comparing these, in terms of supply ratio, I think that that's a fair level to really kind of address. But in terms of fundamentals, I think that Hbar is still, ways ahead of ADA in terms of development standpoints and statistics. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying that because, of course, they're probably going to say, well, ADA has this many dApps already building on it and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, so does Hedera. Now, the difference is that, of course, Hedera's dApps are not fully live. There's a lot of companies building on Hbar, or I should say Hedera, that hasn't gone live with their use cases yet, which is totally fine. That's understandable. Again, it's a fairly new network. When a lot of those projects do go live, I'm looking at some significant volume to be traded over the Hedera network. Now, we do look at MTech, right? So this is one that I've been addressing and watching for a while. In terms of a lot of these use cases, I think that when we look at things around Hedera has their foot in the door in terms of CBDCs and a lot of financial inclusive, use cases as well. But this one is definitely interesting because this is talking about digital cash infrastructures and really kind of building out that, sort of gateway to inclusive financial use cases. I think MTech is a significant company to definitely pay attention to within the Hedera ecosystem that I've mentioned multiple times, but there's also other solid use cases as well. It's not all about the flashiest use cases like CBDCs and finance. You also have to look at sustainability because sustainability is going to be one of the key selling points for a lot of these projects, specifically going forward on in time from now. We do see on Hedera, Kenya's largest biomass firm, Tamua, I'm hoping that I'm saying that right, is starting Africa's first platform to track emission reductions using blockchain. Now, this is not the only, sustainability use case on Hedera. In fact, you guys can go to hedera.com/users and look at all of the use cases. We've talked about these many times. Again, a lot of these are not fully live. You guys can go through all of this. There's, a ton of pages within this talking about and outline their entire partnerships with a lot of these other use cases. But what you can do is you can go to the focus areas and you can see all about their sustainability projects. I've talked about a few of these, specifically in regards to Dovu, power transition. I even talked about Earth ID before and Earth Tile. I've talked about all of these. But there's a lot more in store for this area And I think that when we talk about a lot of the use cases on Hedera currently, there's a few that do stand out to me. And I've mentioned them before. Some of them are already live, but we still need a large demand behind this network to truly push the value. And I've always said that, Hedera hitting 2 billion plus transactions fairly cool and interesting, and it is definitely an accomplishment. But is it really a value driver? This is the issue with Hedera that I've seen. We actually need a lot more volume compared to most networks because of the price transaction. I've said this, right? So a lot of people think that Hbar itself as a token doesn't really mean anything to Hedera, but that's the thing. The difference between Hbar to other tokens in this space is that Hbar is actually fully needed for everything on Hedera. We look at it, right? The dual role of Hbar. It's the network fuel, it's a network protection. This is solid when we look at things happening around specifically Hedera. Everything happening on Hedera is powered by Hbar. I've said this multiple times, but just to kind of reiterate that for people who think that, Hbar won't gain value just because of the network continuing to succeed, there you guys have it. But what I really want to show you guys and what I want to talk about is, again, the average fee. So the last time that I've checked the overall transactions for Hbar, it was roughly 2.2 billion transactions. I'm sure that we're probably much higher now, but I'm just going to go off of we'll say 2.5 billion transactions, because I don't know if we are there just yet. But the reason why I bring this up and the reason why I talk about it is because off of this transaction fee alone per transaction, even at 2.5 billion transactions, it's only $250,000. So although those 2.5 billion transactions are pretty significant, when you look at the average fee, it's nothing too alarming in terms of revenue, being brought in and actually trying to push the price of the token. Again, does the fees on the network actually account for token prices to be pushed in terms of value? Not technically, but it could help, push the value of the token itself, as it is being utilized a lot more, being held a lot more, and of course being transacted with a lot more. We look at, for example, Ethereum at an average price of roughly $19.55 per transaction, and you're looking at say for 2 billion transactions, that would be $39.1 billion. You guys can understand and see the true difference here in terms of fee basis. But this is actually what, in my opinion, will drive the success of Hbar, ahead of some of these other expensive networks. But I definitely do believe that we need a lot more demand. In fact, to get to the point of $20 billion, we would need about 200 trillion transactions on the network, which it's going to get, it's going to take a lot of time to get to that point, but it's going to get very interesting once we do see a lot of these other, use cases going live on, of course, Hedera. And don't get me wrong, I do love the fact that we have so many of these governing councils. But the issue with a lot of these governing council members, right, is just the fact that we haven't really truly seen many use cases from these. I'd love to see more in-depth use case breakdowns from a lot of these companies. I'm sure that there's a lot of NDAs and things like that in place, but I just want to see more transparency in terms of a lot of these use cases. Until then, I'm not going to be extremely bullish on a lot of these, overall GC members. Of course, we could do a lot of our own research and understand the connections here. For example, I did break down EDF and how we could possibly be powering the future of, energy, specifically around the energy grid. We also talked about FTPOS. There's a lot of connections here through a lot of these, GC members. I just want to see confirmed use cases, because we could only speculate so much, and I don't like to speculate too much in a speculative market, because a lot of the value that is derived from a lot of these tokens is all kind of speculation. Of course, we do see a lot of use cases coming from Standard Bank, specifically around cross-border payments and things like that, specifically with stable coins, which is great. But again, I just want to see confirmed use cases. Now let's talk about the price for Hbar by the end of this bull run, if we do get back into that bull run area in terms of a recovery basis. Well, First off, we are still trading against resistance on the daily chart, as you guys do see. But if we go back to the weekly chart here, let's kind of zoom out a little bit and let's look at where we are. So obviously, yes, bearish price action for Hbar 100%. But when we look at this price chart, we are coming down to test a significant area. I would actually say for like right now, I'm waiting for this level to be tested here at about like almost 12.5 cents if we do get this. Now, of course, 11.5 cents or 13 cents down to like 11.5 cents has always been my target range, and that is going off of these bottom tier candles here. It's hard to say exactly where we will end up, but if we do have this range here as our starting point, as we do kind of maybe build out a bridge here and build out that major solid support range, similar to what we did see down here, where we had these nice spikes, and then we kind of just traded sideways for a while until we had that next major breakout event. Well, if we do kind of repeat that process, maybe it takes a little bit of time, right? Again, I don't really like to use bars graphs too much, but maybe we'll have something similar to this, where we have, again, a very sideways momentum build here, and then we have that breakout event to like $1 plus, which this would take us to roughly like $1.25, $1.30. Now, this is not the topping point in my opinion at all. I've always had my topping points up here around this like rough range. Now, in general, right, the target points are on the board. Right now, I would say the bare minimum price action moves for Hbar by the end of this bull run, conservatively, would be like this $1.50 to $2.70 range. So this, again, off of these bottom, figures that we're currently at right now, which, I mean, again, the percentage ROI here is pretty strong. If you look at, if we are just going to the bare minimum 1618, this would be about a 10x opportunity here, right? So this would be 1,019% of an increase in price to $2.70. This is almost a 20x opportunity. But I've always said, again, $3 to $6. The reason why I've said $3 to $6 is this would be a 20x plus, but also you guys can see the fib levels on the board. Again, the higher output, fib levels. I mean, you guys can see it. We're on the log scale here, but in general, at $3 to $6, even at the topping point of like almost $7, it would be $6.95. This would be about a 5,041% of an increase in price. Now, do I believe that we outreach all the way to these fib levels? It's hard to say. I would say more so between the 2 to 2.414 level is pretty strong to be targeted. It's going to take a lot of work, though. In fact, when we talk about Hbar right now, I think that the major thing that I would say Hbar is lacking is just overall demand. There's not a lot of demand around Hbar. There hasn't been a lot of demand around Hbar since going back to all the way to March of 2021. Even in terms of the volume on our recent pumps in like September and stuff, there really wasn't a large amount of demand around it. So we actually need a lot more demand to flow into Hedera. Right now on the RSI, you guys can see the weekly is fairly bearish. It's actually the most bearish that we've ever seen in terms of the chart since going back as far as like roughly February of 2020. On the daily chart, you guys could also see that this was extremely oversold just recently. It almost looks like we are building a floor here. I think that if we could build out a floor model here, it would be pretty strong in terms of support. Again, if we do have that support figure here, it kind of pushes our fib levels a little bit down slightly, but again, it's still in that $3 to $6 range, with the 150 to $2.70 range being the bare minimum targets, which are still very good in terms of ROI. So, in my opinion, the true thing about Hedera right now, the things that I would say that Hbar is truly lacking is marketing for demand. But again, you don't need to market something that is working. You don't need to market something that has, the real, building on it happening in terms of utilizing the efficiencies and those efficiencies being realized. I think that that's the thing that a lot of people are missing, right? Everyone wants to hype it up, hype it up, hype it up, hype it up. But I actually want slow growth. And the reason why I do want the slow growth with Hbar is just because we still haven't seen Hbar tap its true potential yet. That will happen when we do see sharding enabled. We don't know when sharding is going to happen, but I would expect this to happen very, very soon. I was hoping for it to happen, eventually, possibly within the 2022 timeframe, but We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. In fact, we haven't even hit our 10,000 plus transactions per second just yet. We've seen on the testnet, currently right now, I would say that we're running between like 20 to 50 transactions per second, which is really nothing. And that tells me that there's not a massive demand around the network just yet. So we actually have to wait until these use cases go live. But again, all of this does not account for, again, the price moving. The price will move off of, just speculation alone. We've seen this happen with a lot of projects. But I would say for the price to actually move, we need to be back into a nice, point within the market. We need to have that reversal. We need to wait to see how things actually play out tomorrow or today, if you will, with the dollar and the indices. Again, this video is uploaded ahead of time, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen with that. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, up to you all. Have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are on this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.